Hey, Teneha, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Brittany?
Good. Where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from the great city of New Orleans, Nolens, New Orleans,
Collins,
Louisiana.
NOLA, love it.
Yes, the NOLA, baby.
I um I have some memories in New Orleans, so I'll tell you a quick little founder story. So
Sure.
I was a founder in Houston. I went to a pitch competition in New Orleans. I was super stressed. I was super like sleep deprived, all these things. I took a bus over to New Orleans and I forgot to pack underwear.
Mhm.
So I was there for 3 days for this like competition or whatever. And I was like, damn, I need underwear. And so I went to Walmart in New Orleans to buy underwear. And what I realized is I had also forgot my wallet at home too in Houston.
Oh my, oh my,
I
not
was
good.
standing in a New Orleans Walmart by the registers with like a package of panties in my hands. And I was like, can somebody please, I'll Venmo you the money. And like, no one wanted to pay for my underwear and let me Venmo them.
Oh my God,
It
that's
was
awful.
horrible. It was horrible.
That is horrible.
I've had plenty of great trips to New Orleans, but when I
Mhm.
think about like when founders are like, man, this is tough, I'm like, I get it. Yeah. Like when I was
Right,
a founder, that's, sometimes you forgot your underwear, and
right. Wow, that's crazy. And you are like 3 to 5 hours away. And yeah, nobody will buy your underwear in the Walmart.
crazy, crazy. I cannot wait for my autobiography to come out one day. I'll be sure to include that story.
That is definitely going to be a highlight, I promise you, because there are so many things we could talk about in regards to that. So, oh my God, it's endless,
Oh my God.
endless.
Well, that kind of leads us to our first question, which is, our listeners love to learn about the background of our guests. So, where have you always lived in New Orleans? Are you new there? What did you study? Did you have a career before FemTech? Kind of take us through your story.
Okay, so I wasn't actually born here per se, but I've been here all my life. I mean, I think we moved here with my grandmother. I moved with my grandmother and my grandfather when I was like maybe 9 months old or a year. So I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know whether I was a girl or a boy then. So that really doesn't matter. But for me, this is home. I've been here, 40 plus years. I was educated here, elementary school, high school, college. All of my friends are here. Like my friend set is here. Memories are here. Everything is here for me. So yeah, this is all things New Orleans. I am. And as far as prior to working in FemTech, I actually, believe it or not, worked in construction. Now I didn't do the construction. But I worked in construction in the administrative area, so to
Uh-huh.
speak. I worked with a general contractor, and I was a subcontractor. I'm sorry, outreach coordinator for subcontractors. And so yeah, I mean, I got all the way there, and I'm all the way here. So
Well, it sounds like you are familiar with working in a male-dominated industry.
yes, and actually, that was actually something I thank God for that because I think that helped me to learn to be the only.
Mm,
In that field, I was the only female at the table. In that field, a lot of times I was the only person of color at the
yeah,
table. So it helped me to get rid of the uncomfortableness
yeah. You're
that I
like,
would
I know
sometimes
this
feel.
game. I know it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
I
like,
ain't scared.
I'm like, hey, they see me as one thing, but they're actually thinking about going home and drinking some beer and kicking their feet up. That's what's on their mind. They're not. I think a lot of times and I know personally me myself, I put undue stresses on myself that shouldn't necessarily be there. Now that's not to say that the stress of being a female in a male dominated atmosphere is not there. But I think I put more stress on myself because I'm like, ooh, what are they going to think? Da, 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 da. And then working in that area, in that arena, I learned that they're pretty much thinking the same thing that I am. What am I going to eat? When is it time to chill? And when can I get out of here?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. So you're working in construction, you're getting used to being like the only, right,
Right.
in the
Mhm.
room. Now you're the founder of Vagiplug? Like where the heck, what has happened? What happened?
Right. So I'll say probably, when you hit that magical age of 30, everything just starts breaking down.
Oh, girl,
And
that's
uh,
been 2 months for me. So you're making
oh,
me
okay.
curious. Tell me what
Okay.
I'm about to
Well,
experience.
hey, listen, buyer beware. But yeah, so I hit that age, and actually I started having problems prior to that, but I never really paid attention
Mhm.
too much. And so I would use perfume soaps, and I'm not going to say a particular name, but when I say perfume soaps, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What company sells them. I would use perfume soaps in my vaginal area, and not knowing, because a lot of times our parents or mothers don't have the discussion with you of use this soap for this area and use this soap for this area, or don't use soap there at all, or don't douche, or you find out a lot of these things by trial and error. And I did exactly that. I found out by trial and error. I used those perfume soaps in that area, and while I smelled great once I got out the tub, a couple days later, I was, scratching somebody. I was like, oh God, what is going on? And then so I just was like, Lord, this cannot be life. I can't. I was repeatedly going back and forth to the gynecologist's office, giving me prescriptions for this and BB this and yeast infection that and vaginal this and vaginal that. I said, this just can't be life. And so I just, cried out to God. I was like, what is this? And then he gave me a spiritual download of Vagiplug, what to do, what it should be made of. And the rest is, shall we say, about maybe 2.5, 3 years in history.
I love it. Well, I definitely want to get into what is Vagiplug, but let's talk real quickly a little bit more about these perfume soaps and women should or should not be using them. I bet you we have thousands of listeners around the world, and I bet you a good percentage of them are going to say, I was today years old when I learned that I shouldn't put soap in my vulva.
Right.
I actually interviewed somebody the other week who's a founder of a very high-end tech company. And she, before the interview, said, I read an article today that said you're not supposed to put soap up there.
Right.
And I'm the founder of a femtech company. And I said, I feel you. Right. I'm the host of this podcast. And all the time, I'm like, that's where my urethra is. I didn't even,
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. What is the, if for all the people with vulvas listening, what is the message that you wish they had in their manual? What should they know about that?
What they should know about that area is it cleans itself. Yeah. You don't need to do anything to it. As a matter of fact, it is kind of self-diagnosing. If there's a problem, it's going to let you know. It's going to say, hey, there's a problem. You're going to smell differently, or you're going to feel differently. You're going to have a discharge. So that area pretty much tells you in and of itself, stop doing what you're doing. To the listening audience, I would just say point blank, use one towel for your body and that area. And then just for your vaginal area, just get water, just a warm towel with water, and just, wipe in there and clean it out. If you feel that you have to necessarily clean it. I mean, I know sometimes you're sweaty and you're running and you're exercising and it may get kind of musty down there, but you don't need soap to clean it. You just don't. And that is the enemy. Perfume soaps, bath bombs. When I hear the word bath bomb, I'm just like, you are going to be scratching forever.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about bath bombs, because way pre-Femtech Focus, I've always kind of been a little cautious about, I'm the worst with yeast infections. Like, I quit life for 2 weeks. So I'm very cautious about that. So when I saw bath bombs getting popular and I saw ones coming out that had glitter in it, I was like, I don't know about y'all, but when I'm in a bath, my legs aren't totally crossed the whole time.
Right.
I don't think glitter on my clit is going to be a great, healthy thing for me.
No, not good at all. Yeah, I'm just outraged when I see them, and then I'm even more so outraged because I see them selling them with these little cute toys attached to them, and so little girls are starting to use them now. And I can only imagine if I started having this issue at 30, I can only imagine a child or a younger younger female at the age of like 7 or 8 that's continuously using bath bombs, I can only imagine what her pH level is going to be by the time,
Wow.
she gets to 30 years old. I mean, because they're advertising all of these bath bombs for stuff or as things that children should use, and grown women shouldn't use them, let alone little girls. And it, like I said, it just totally infuriates me when I see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, you don't need anything down there. Even, dare I say, I guess bubble bath, on the fence with that, but it's so much water till the couple of drops of bubble bath that you put in there may be dispersed out. So
Yeah. Whereas the bath
obvious
bomb, I
bad.
feel like you drop it in between your knees and it like fizzles up, like in
Right.
terms of the marketing of it, like it literally is like hover above this thing as it disintegrates up into,
Right.
Um,
Into your vaginal.
do you think
Basically.
that like bath bombs not being good for your vagina is due to bath bombs being created by men and them not knowing, or is it also women creating it and them not knowing, or do you think the industry knows and they don't care? There's a hypothesis to this question. I'm just brainstorming with you.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually twofold. I think that it's because it's made by men
Mhm.
and they just don't know. And I think also that the industry knows and they just don't care. They're like, hey, I'm gonna make some money off this. It's your problem if something happens as a result of this. Yeah, but don't get me started on men and instrumentation, because oh my God, like, the instruments that they use in the gynecologist office, I'm like, who made this? Like Fred Flintstone? What the hell? And why is it that we're like in 2021 and no one has thought to, warm these things up or make them a little bit more friendly to my vagina? And,
Yeah,
geez.
totally. Also, earlier I said, like, I bet our women listeners are going to be like, I'm today years old when I realized you shouldn't wash your inside your labia with soap. But also for our men listeners, they need to know too, because I'm pro showering with your partner. And
Mhm.
I have had partners try to slide some soap in there. And I'm like, hey, I know you're like trying to be sweet, like, but FYI, guess what? We're going to have a little lesson.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
so men, don't do that to your ladies either. Okay. Don't
Yeah.
put soap in there. Mm-mm.
No, it
Don't do
doesn't, it does not need to be soaped. It
that.
can clean itself.
No.
It can clean itself.
So tell us, what is Vagiplug? Vagiplug.
So Vagiplug is a medical grade silicone device that basically has kind of looks like a tampon. And while you're showering or bathing, or you would just, well, actually before you shower or bathe, you would just take the Vagiplug, insert it into your vaginal canal, and it thereby would systematically block anything from going into the canal. So it just kind of acts as a barrier, so to
Yeah.
speak. So it prevents anything from going in, and pretty much nothing comes down as well. It's not to be used when your menstrual cycle is down, or not to be used during sex. It's strictly a preventative barrier that goes in place into the vaginal canal, right? Before you shower, bathe, or we're testing out some other things, but shower, bathe, swimming, in the hot tub, also with Brazilian waxes. Yeah.
Interesting.
As a barrier just to prevent anything from going in. Then once you're finished showering or bathing or whatever activity is that you're doing, just pull it out, you go about your business, and no irritation.
And how long ago did you start this?
It's been about, so I'll actually say, because I wrote the provisional patent. So that was about in 2018. So we are roughly 3 years.
Cool. And like,
Yeah.
is it available in the market yet?
Not yet, not yet. So we're actually getting ready to start a crowdfunding campaign to get the device, a secondary device for beta testing, because I had the prototype, but it was just a prototype. It was, 3D, made from a 3D printer. Then I had another one that was made from a rubber material that is not, friendly to your vagina. But this one is going to be. So we're going to do a beta testing, go through the process, get it FDA approved, and then it'll be on the market.
Amazing. How's your experience been so far with finding the right material to go in a vagina?
Um, well, like I said, when I got that spiritual download about what the product should be named and made of, that kind of came along with it. So I thought about latex, but then I thought about, some people have, some people have an allergy to latex, but the medical grade silicone is
Mhm.
different because I know these are materials that they use when they're operating and on other devices that are implantable inside the body. So I figured, hey, there should be no, rejection
Mhm.
issue
Mhm.
with the device itself if it's made out of that material.
Because the reason I ask is we find in femtech innovation that there's actually a huge lack of research on basic, like, here's materials that work best in vaginas.
Ah, okay.
And also I'm wondering, like, are you just and feel free to not answer this if you don't want to, because I'm
Yeah.
asking you about your own vagina, but do you beta test it in yourself, or like do you have models? Because that's another issue, is like there's no like vaginal model that you can like test things out in, you know?
Right. So and so just all things considered, I don't have a problem talking about vaginas, toes, feet,
Okay.
whatever, because to me it's all just a part of your body. And
Yeah.
I think part of, and I'm going to answer your question, but I think part of the reason that folks are so timid about talking about vaginas and ladies issues is because we tend to be timid about it. And if I'm bashful, or if I don't want to talk about something, or I'm feeling a little insecure about talking about something, then that is going to be relayed to the person as well. And I think that kind of is a problem. So I don't have a problem talking about vaginas, just like I talk about feet. You know?
Yeah.
So that being said, what actually happened is one of the prototypes that I actually had to make two. Well, actually three. One was a hard 3D one that came off the 3D printer, and then I had two that were made at a lab in Mississippi. So one of the two I actually kept for myself. I put it inside of a condom just to see how
Yeah.
it would feel inside of my body. So that one, obviously, I have just for myself. The other two I keep. So once I finish the crowdfunding, then I'll be able to have the ones that will be used for actual beta testing with volunteers that have come to me and said, "Hey, I'll beta test your product. I'm all on board. I definitely, want to help out with this." And so, yeah, once the crowdfunding is over, I'll be able to get those made and tested.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So my co-founder is Dr. Julie Hakeem. She's a pediatric gynecologist,
Hmm.
and she does a lot of reconstructive surgery on young girls' vaginas because they were either born that way or they were in an accident or something happened. And there is actually no such thing as a vaginal stent. So it's essentially
Wow.
kind of similar to Vagiplug, but way less consumer, way
Hmm.
more medical
Right.
device to hold open the vagina while it
Hmm.
heals. And so it has to stay in there for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And she just got her patent approved, and she just got her prototype. And
Awesome.
so it's so funny that you said, yeah, put it in a condom, put it in, because
Yeah.
I need it. This is my company. So actually, Julie just finished her 2 weeks of wearing her own vaginal.
Oh my, that's
I know.
awesome.
I said,
Yes.
girl, you could practically run a clinical trial with our interns and us, like we kind of.
Yes. I may
So
need to talk to her
yeah.
because she sounds like she's been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah, we definitely have to pair you two up. You're like the
Yes.
consumer version of her. It's really interesting,
Right.
actually.
And
Um,
I had someone that asked me when I talked about it, and I always like to talk to people about the veggie plug because every time I talk to someone, another area comes up, or they're like, "Oh, you can use it for this." Someone asked me, "Well, can you use it for I guess, a transgender man transitioning to female in order to help, construct the vaginal opening?" And I was just like, I don't know, but I mean, hey, let's
yeah.
go for it. Let's
Well,
go for it.
Julie's target market right now is pediatrics, but
Mm,
yeah, definitely. Let's like, I'm. I don't want to promote. Let's plug up all the vaginas because I'm also like pro let the vaginas flow. But sometimes we need it plugged,
right. Yeah.
right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Interesting. What are some other, so we have like the soaps, bath bombs. That's super interesting.
Mhm.
I didn't even see us like getting into that, but it's totally true. What are some other areas that like we just live our lives in high risk situations with our vaginas. We don't even know it. So I'm going to ask you, like are pools and chlorine bad for us? Like what are other like lakes? Like tell me other situations that I'm probably just out there winging it and we
No,
could probably
no,
plug it up.
no, you're actually spot on. I did a focus group, and one of the ladies actually said something to me about swimming, and that's why I've incorporated swimming, or the use while swimming, into, you know, potential uses for the Vagiplug, because she said something along the lines of, oh, you know, the chlorine, and I get irritation, and, you know, I just don't want things going in there. And I was like, yeah, I could kind of see that. And then my aunt, she's a former military personnel, and she said something about the military and the ladies being out in, like you said, dirty water, and just being out in the desert and blah blah blah. And, you know, so I'm just like writing it all down. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's try that too. I think, you know, and this just could be me, but the way I think is, sometimes you invent something for one thing, and then you find out that people use it for something else. Because like the straw, you know, initially, I don't know what straws were, I guess, made for drinking or whatever, but you see people that are using straws for other things, making spitballs, you know. It's just,
They're so innovative.
you know, yeah, just doing a whole bunch of other things. Making, I've seen people poke hole, or not poke holes, but use the straws and get those little pimentos out of the olives. I'm like, who thinks to do that? Okay.
Who knows?
You know, so
Is gonna go.
yeah, I would imagine, you know, once it hits the market, and as, you know, women and men actually as well continue to hear about it, there will be other uses. And one guy even said, he's like, the Vagiplug, he was like, is that like an anti-rape device? And I was like, no. And then as I thought about it, I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but okay. You know, this is just something that he thought, right? So
yeah. No, I mean, that's, as an investor, that's a very attractive model, right? Like, oh, this can be used for so many markets, right?
right.
That's really fantastic. Do you think that Vagiplug with the name Vagi in it is like, do you get, what kind of responses do you get from people?
Oh my God. Like, do you have like 45 extra minutes? Because I can only tell you, it is just hilarious, from, you know, men to women to younger kids, and just everyone, because they see, the first thing they see is Vaggie.
Mm-hmm.
And then their plug, and they start thinking. But yeah, the responses is just outrageous. And once again, you know, you're talking about vaginas, and so that in and of itself is kind of like, you know, you want to tiptoe around that. But the way that I do it, whenever I have a conversation, or if I'm doing not necessarily a pitch competition, but I participated in an accelerator, and you had to introduce your company. And the first thing I said was, I said, vagina, 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 vagina. I just said it like that. And then I said, hey, let me tell you this about the vagina before we go anywhere else. You're either one or two people with the vagina. Either you have one, or you're trying to get in one. That's who you are. You either have it, or you're trying to get at it. And once I say that, I think it kind of, you know, melts the ice a little bit, and folks get a little bit more relaxed. And then we're able to have those open and candid conversations about all things vagina. And like you said, you're educating men, because oftentimes they don't realize, and they don't know the extremes that we go to as women, you know, trying to keep things, you know, okay in that area.
No, totally. And I mean, there's single dads out there with daughters, you know,
Right.
and they need to know things in order to tell their daughters about. And like I said, if you're showering together, bathing together, also, like, I, you know, have been in new relationships before where things were hot and heavy, and I've had to be like, my balance is like, it's off, you know, and like, they're like, what does that even mean? Like, am I just that big? And I'm like, that's really not what I'm referring to.
Right, exactly.
You know,
settle down, don't, you know,
settle down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is something that people need to learn about. I love that you're very front forward with Vagiplug. It kind of reminds me of they changed their name, unfortunately. I don't know why, but
Mhm.
they're now Kira Health. They used to be Clit Health. And
Oh,
yeah, they're actually funded by Serena Williams. Pretty
oh,
awesome.
okay,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
an amazing young Black woman in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So, but they're Kira Health now. That's fine. Whatever. Go Serena Williams investing in femtech. Yeah,
Right,
about
right.
it. But I love that you went into your pitch saying vagina, vagina, vagina,
Yeah.
because I actually just last week gave a talk on pitch decks,
Hmm.
and I said, if you're raising capital for female empowered porn, how do you tell the investors in the room via your pitch deck that you're making porn without showing porn,
Right.
right? And so I showed some examples of like women like biting their lip. It's like, hey, we all know, you know?
Right.
And then I also showed Awkward Essentials, which is a post-sex cleanup kit for women. And she actually demonstrates like the scenario of a woman sitting on the toilet after having sex so that the cum drips out. But
Right.
she showed that with a Barbie doll, like on the
Oh,
toilet, and so she used like humor. And so I love what you did, which was like break it, just
yeah,
break it right there. That's what we're going to talk about.
yeah.
Let's all get the blushing out of the way and lean in.
Right,
I love
right,
that method. I love it so much.
right, right.
What are some of your future goals for Vagiplug?
Oh gosh. So crazy as it is, I haven't even really started per se, and I've already thought of an exit. That may be kind of crazy. But long term, I definitely want to IPO and potentially sell the company to another like a Johnson and Johnson
Yeah.
or Procter and Gamble, Kimberly Clark, some other company that already is in the market for all things women's health. Um, Between now and that part, I plan to take Vagiplug retail to Amazon,
Yeah.
Walgreens. I've sat in a couple classes and I didn't realize how much of a chore, and I'm saying air quote with chore, how much of a chore it is to get into Walmart and these retail stores. I didn't realize that you had to have these big quantities and
Oh yeah.
yeah, all this
Oh yeah.
other stuff. And you're courting, somebody's courting you, you're courting them from the
Mhm.
process from start to finish, which I guess is great because they're helping you along the way. But I just thought it was just as simple in my ignorance. I thought it was just as simple as, hey, I have a product, we can make, mass quantities of it, put it on your shelf.
Yeah.
And no, they're like their tiers is like, bottom shelf, top shelf, middle shelf. And so yeah, retail. At first, before retail, I definitely want to get into like the OBGYN's office and see if I can get Vagiplug as on a prescription kind of basis where, hey, you having issues with bacterial vaginosis, then here, use this Vagiplug.
Mhm.
And then retail, and then from retail, IPOing and eventually selling the company.
Interesting. Because what if one of your marketing strategies is actually it's like you don't like bath bombs, but you could almost partner with them. Like if
Well,
you
right,
can't help yourself and use a bath bomb,
right.
make sure you at least plug it up.
Right. Well, I thought to sell it right next to Perfume body soaps
Yeah.
in the pink store, in that store that sells the brand pink. Right next to, hey, you got your Amber Romance, which is my favorite fragrance, Amber Romance, and right next to it you sell the Vagiplug.
It's kind of like condoms and pregnancy tests
Yeah,
right next to each
exactly,
other.
exactly. You
Um,
get one, you're definitely gonna need the other.
well, I really appreciate you also like admitting like here I am. I have this passion. I have a vision. I'm going for it. I'm moving. And every step of the way, I'm like, huh, didn't know that. Huh, didn't know that.
Right,
And like, that's
right,
why we need programs, mentors, people guiding folks like you who love talking about vaginas and vaginal infections and blah, blah, blah to help you get through that. Right. Because if
right.
we only have the tech stars of the world, they're 500 startups and they're not down with your pitch starting with vagina, vagina, vagina. Like we need to upgrade them, but we also need like vagina specific programs so that you don't have to even like excuse yourself for, saying the word
Right.
vagina. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I read an article that was basically saying someone had done some advertising, and like Facebook or Twitter, one of those social media giants, pulled the article down because there was something in there about vaginas, and apparently you just can't say vagina.
Can't say vagina.
So
Can't say
I'm
it
just like,
on Facebook.
who
You can say
knew?
erectile. You can say
Right.
erectile. Yep.
Well, and that's my thing. When men had a problem, they still wanted to be, they're 65 and 70, they still want to be intimate, with, 25 and 30-year-olds. They created themselves a little blue pill. Nobody's looking out for women, so we have to do it ourselves.
Yep.
Like I said, I go to the doctor's office, and, they spread ego on the table. And I'm just like, this is just so not embarrassing, but it just kind of takes away from the whole experience. I mean, I have to have a pap smear, but do I have to be exposed like this?
Yeah.
And can you use some equipment that's a little warmer or not? My vagina's round. Yeah.
It's like I spread my legs and I'm like, oh my God, I'm freezing.
Right, I'm freezing. Can I get a blanket or something? My vagina's round, and you're talking square peg, round hole. I mean, it's not a comfortable feeling. So, but then when I realized that the folks that were making or had made these inventions were men, and they're clueless about what it is that we go through on a daily basis when it comes to, vaginal health.
Well, I want to recommend you go to our merch store, because we have a beanie that says, it says it's vulva, not vagina. And part of the reason I love your name is because the vagina is the whole.
Right.
Your company's a great conversation starter about like vulva versus
vagina. Right.
In order to innovate for it. So
right, exactly. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah. And then also that pushes the envelope to say, hey, vagina is not a bad word. It's just not. Lady parts are, it's not a bad word. Vulva, let's talk about it. Labia, let's talk about it.
In public, I go to the dog park, I go grocery shopping, because I'm like, they're not bad words.
Right.
It's not on my forehead.
That's right. Oh,
man. Well, this has been so much fun. I have two last questions for you that our listeners really love. The first one is, if someone wanted to start a femtech company, what is an area in women's health and wellness that still needs innovating?
I'm gonna say, I thought about this, and I would say maybe in the area of PMS and mental health, just because, once again, premenstrual syndrome. So we're acknowledging that it's something more than just, oh, she's in a bad mood. We're acknowledging that it's something more than that. Can we do something to address it? And by that, I don't necessarily mean shove pills across the table at me or something, but maybe help me to mentally prepare for it, so that when it does happen, I can arrest it and say, hey, I'm not in a bad mood. My hormones are just all over the place. So, maybe I just need to take a woosah moment, sit down and relax, and just take a day off prior to my period, or a couple of days or whatever, and just don't do anything. Just, sit and meditate and just relax. Don't try to take on the challenges of the world. Just relax.
Yeah. I can't believe how many times I've been like weepy and cryy and so sensitive. And then I got my period, and I was always like, oh, that's why I was like that. But it's like, bitch, how many times I gotta go through this? Literally every single time I'm like, oh, that's why. And it's like, imagine how I could have like self-cared myself pre-crying or during the crying, but instead I was like, why do I like this?
Right.
I'm so sensitive and so fat. And then
exactly.
Oh no.
No, I actually had a moment like that just the other day. My sister, so here in New Orleans, it's Mardi Gras, and because of COVID, Mardi Gras is canceled. So there's this thing called Float in the Oaks, and they put these Mardi Gras floats in City Park. And she's like, hey, we're going to floats in the Oak. Do you want to go? And I was like, no, I don't want to go. And she was just like, I was like, I think I'm in a bad mood, blah, blah, blah. But then I went back the next day and I apologized to her. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. I wasn't in a bad mood. I was like, it's PMS. And she was like, oh.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, when you can realize what it is that you're going through, you can arrest it. And then you can say, hey, let me, but a lot of, and again, I didn't learn this until I got older. No one had the discussion with me and say, hey, you're going to have PMS. You're going to feel like you want to tear the world apart, but it's not that. You're not in a bad mood. It's just your hormones.
I also get like incredibly horny. And I
Yeah.
would be like, kind of like, why am I like this?
Yeah.
Why am I in heat? Like that's something else. No one told
Right.
me. No one
Right.
told me that, And so I
Right.
was like, I must be the weirdest girl ever because I'm the
Mm-hmm.
only one who gets horny on my period. And
Mm-mm.
like, oh no, that turns out to be
That's
nature. That's actually
right.
purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we don't talk about that. We need to.
We did. Yeah. Yeah.
Our last question is, what do you think the femtech industry as a whole needs the most right now in order to be successful?
Exposure.
Mm,
Exposure. I just think that there are more conversations like the one you and I are having need to be commonplace. The conversations that folks are having around the water cooler need to be about femtech and about women's health, because let's face it, I'm not a mom yet, but when mom is not doing good, the whole house is a wreck. Nothing gets done. And I'm not saying that mom is the only person that's shopping, but at the end of the day, we know mom is the one that is the glue. Dad is kind of disciplinarian, and he's kind of the one that, does all of the handiwork. And I'm not trying to, take anything away from women that do handy stuff, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, if I had a husband, he would be the one that's fixing stuff around the house, gassing up my car, cutting the grass. He would be the one that's doing that. But mom is the nurturer. She's the one that makes sure everybody's okay. But if mom is not okay, then nobody's okay. So at the end of the day, women's health is everyone's health. If mom is not doing good, or the head of the household, or the female in the household is not doing well, nobody is. So I think ultimately there just needs to be more conversation about women's health and in general,
yep.
and how it impacts everybody as a whole. It's not just it's not just a female thing. It is a worldwide thing.
Yeah. Because if we're going to be women on boards, if we're going to be
That's
women
right.
CEOs of IPO companies, we can't have our vagina itching because we had a bath bomb with glitter in it.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
like we gotta make sure everyone's taking care of us. And by everyone, I mean like companies and,
Companies. Exactly.
because, if we're gonna, girls run the world, if we're gonna do it, like,
Exactly.
Queen Bee says, like, we can't have an itchy vag, and we
No.
can't have hot flashes all day and
No.
things, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's what we
Exactly.
need. Well, this has been so much fun. I love
Same here.
LinkedIn. You're very active,
Yes.
and I love it. So thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. And I definitely, to your listeners, hey, get on board and get in on this Femtech Focus podcast, because actually prior to coming on, I listened and I learned. And like you said, even I'm in Femtech, and I learned, I think it was some statistic you said, it was like they didn't really know the anatomy of a clitoris until like the 1960s
1998.
or in 98. Okay.
98.
Yeah. That's
20
crazy.
years ago, they were
That's
like,
crazy.
didn't even know. Yeah.
That's crazy. And we most of us, or some of us, have had clitorises since before then. So
Longer than
come on.
Yep.
That's crazy. But yeah, this is excellent. I appreciate your time. And yeah, this is fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing, because you are actually, helping to hedge hedge things forward in the femtech market. So I greatly appreciate you, and hats off to you and everything that you're doing with your company. And yeah, just keep it going. And I'm right behind you.
All right. I just ended the audio. Let me
Okay.
save it real fast. So fun. You're so
awesome. You are. I mean, you ask the best questions, and it's just like you're not getting bashful when I say anything, because like I said, on my focus group, I was talking to some of the ladies, and they were just like,
yeah.
I'm like, I
mean, I don't shy away from most, but when I go to talk about like my guests' vagina, I do pause and I'm like, hey, boundaries are important. Like,
right.
Feel free to not tell me. Like,
right.
in your own vagina, like that's none of my business.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's greatly appreciated. But like I said, I mean, I honestly do feel like if we were not timid and bashful, some of us, because it's not me, because I'll talk about vaginas to anybody at this point. If women were not as bashful talking about it, I think that it would not be as much of a taboo subject,
Totally, 100%. All righty, we got our last thing.
Okay.
I'm just gonna set this up. So it's essentially, you introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Teneha Brown. I'm CEO and founder of Vagiplug, and FemTech to me is, and then you say whatever it is to you.
Okay. Hey, my name is Teneha Brown. I'm founder and CEO of Vagiplug. And FemTech to me is a movement that recognizes feminine healthcare disparities and works to bring about change in the form of medical devices, technological advances, and the like.